All right. Well, Zach Gelb's in the building. The man, CBS Radio, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 7 p.m. Pacific time. Zach Gelb, a proud Temple alum. How you doing today, man?
Yeah, just congratulations, man, on all your success. How you been? All good at my end.
Everything's good, man. Yeah, like we just discussed off air a little bit here. Got married right before July, and that was fun. And now just training, getting ready to go, getting ready for camp. It's a downtime in sports, as you know. I'm sure. I mean, obviously the NBA championship's still rolling on and keeping us afloat, but other than that, it just doesn't seem like the same time. I know football season is a monster for you. It's a monster for everybody, but this time of year in sports, you know, is it always come easy for you talking sports, or is there sometimes you got to dig deep and find some extra things to talk about?
Well, it's kind of weird because football is now 365 days out of the year, where that always wasn't the case. And when you have controversies with Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson clearly has been in the news. There's always something to talk about. And it also helps when it involves quarterbacks. But you mix that in with the NBA Finals, which is now a very compelling series. There's always things to talk about, but you know, it's the entertainment thing. That's the whole part of this business. That's the main part of this business. Anyone could give you any stat, any breakdown of the game. You got to do it in an entertaining and compelling fashion. So it's like yesterday we had Josh Booty, the former quarterback and baseball player, in studio, and he was with an owner of a New York City restaurant that just broke a Guinness World Record for the most expensive French fries. And they were $200 French fries. I never went into the show thinking I was going to talk about $200 French fries. We ended up talking about $200 French fries for 20 minutes.
That's great. Actually, he's a Not For Long Media alum. He was on our podcast and in a different form at one point in time too. He's an interesting interview. Big LSU guy, Josh Booty, played MLB and in the NFL, I believe. So he's got a really cool background. You got to love the fry talk. You got to love the food talk. That always makes things go a little bit smoother. You know, there's so many different ways we can take this, but I really want to start with ground zero for you, right? You have a family in radio. You have a background in it. You have always had a passion for it. You've climbed your way up the ranks. Now you're with CBS Sports Network. You're a national radio host. It's unbelievable to see. And we've kind of grown up together in our two separate businesses here and have a lot of mutual respect for each other. And again, thank you so much, Zach Gelb, for coming on. But where did it start for you? Where was the passion started from? Who started it? And maybe some stories that help you get off the ground early in your radio career.
Well, it's funny. I'm sitting right now in WFAN and CBS Sports Radio. I grew up begging my dad to take me to work when he was producing Mike and the Mad Dog on WFAN in New York. So that's where the love, that's where the passion started for it. And I think I got the best history maybe in the history of radio, just like the lessons that I learned at such a young age, seeing Don Imus, seeing Mike and Chris, Sid Rosenberg, Jody McDonald. I literally grew up in the most popular radio station for sports in the history of this business. So there were so many things that I just learned at such a young age. It would be the equivalence of really a quarterback or any football player growing up and their dad playing in the NFL and dominating in the NFL. So that's how it all started. And I remember one day I was 8 years old and I grew up as a Patriot fan. So they thought it'd be a cute bit. It was Joe Beningo and Sid Rosenberg and this producer, Ray Martell, to put the Patriot fan on, this 8-year-old kid, to talk smack to Joe Beningo, who is a diehard Jet fan. So that day I was going home with my dad after that happened. And I said to my dad, this is what I want to do for a living. Now, when you say that when you're 8 years old, you don't know if you're going to follow through with it, but that's always something that I followed through with. And I did shows on the internet in high school. As you know, did shows in college. And then right after college, got a few jobs and ultimately made my way here back home to New York.
For people trying to get into the business now, what's the best way to do it? Everyone's got a podcast, right? Everybody's got a different avenue, you know. As radio is hot as it was, national radio probably is, but you know, I'm going off a little off topic, but for those getting in the business now, what do you suggest?
Here's what I would suggest. Never be afraid to hear the words no. A lot of people now, they go like, how does this person get that opportunity? How is this person in college covering that game? It's because they simply asked. And a lot of people are apprehensive to ask a PR person. Like when I was in Philadelphia, I sent an email out to a PR person to cover an Eagles game. Originally, I was told no. Then a few weeks later, I sent another email out asking to go cover the Eagles game. I was told yes. So don't get discouraged would be number one. Don't be afraid to go out of the box and just ask for things, because the worst thing you're going to hear is no. But most importantly, it's about reps. I can't tell you how many shows I did in high school on a streaming service, or how many shows I just did in my room recording shows with my friends and stuff like that. It's those reps how you get better. And it's not going to be the greatest thing from the start, but then you send those reps to maybe program directors or someone that can be a critical voice. And that's how you get better. And when you're in college, which is a tremendous tool, as you know, at Temple, there's a radio station, there's a newspaper, there's also a TV station. So there's so many opportunities for you to get reps. And some people may go, oh, it's college radio. Oh, it's college television. BS, because those reps are what program directors are going to want to listen to eventually get you hired when you get out of college.
That's a great point. I love those 2 points. And I think it's funny you said that. Right away I thought about when I had no experience and Harry Mays broke his ankle playing golf and he couldn't be the sideline reporter for the Temple Owls radio broadcast anymore. And I said, I'd love to do it. And you know what? Pat Kraft didn't blink an eye at it. And he didn't even really the former AD at Temple, who's now at Boston College. He was just like, okay, let's go, give it a try. And I sat in behind the great Kevin Cobb for one day, and then the rest was history. I did it for 3 more years, and absolutely I had a ball calling games. It's such a pleasure of mine, and those reps were massive for me because my last year doing it, I was doing a countdown to kickoff show. I got to work with Tony Bruno, which was unbelievable for me to learn from Tony and John McMullen and these big national radio names on Sunday. I did Monday with them as well to count down Sunday Night Football, then to count down Monday Night Football, and then to work on the weekends calling Temple football games. Those reps were huge for me. They were unreal. And I didn't make any money, but those reps were massive for me to help grow this career that I'm doing while I'm playing. There's a handful of people in your life outside of your parents that have had a huge impact on you. And for those that are successful or are finding success young ages or whatever at any point of their life, they know those people, they recognize those people. Who are those people for you? And what is their impact on you and your career?
Yeah, it's a few people. I would say Ray Martell on the producing side has been instrumental. Ray is a longtime radio producer in New York. He's now the executive producer of Mets baseball. He's just someone that has always been benevolent to me. I would say Angelo Cataldi in Philadelphia, I interned for him. He really taught me the entertainment part of this business and how to fine tune my skills as an intern there. And sometimes you get an internship and people think it's just getting people coffee or getting people Philly pretzels. No, this internship, Angelo gave you tasks. And if you were willing to run with it and do a good job, he would give you more and more tasks and also put you on the air. And then I would also have to say on the management side, he just retired, wrapped up 30 years here in New York. Mark Chernoff, who was the legendary program director at WFAN. He's someone that hired me twice. One, to originally come to CBS Sports Radio. Then I have to thank Eric Spitz and Steve Cohen, who brought me to Sirius for a few months. And then Mark called me back and got me back in the building in this current time slot. So those 3 executives are massive. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Matt Nahagan in Philadelphia, because he was the one that hired me when I was doing afternoon drive, and I was the program director, I was the board op, I was the producer, everything at this small AM station in New Jersey, which you could basically hear through like a tin can. That's how bad the signal was. But 9:20 AM the Jersey, and it was me getting reps and making the name for myself. And Matt Nahagan heard me and asked me to come interview at 97.5 The Fanatic, and I actually did the post game that entire year when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So I would say those guys in management, and then on air, definitely Angelo, and then also Ray Martell and Sid Rosenberg have been instrumental really in my career, and just connections, advice, and then also really giving me a passion to do this for a living.
Angelo Cataldi is a monster in radio and then monster in one of the biggest sports markets in the United States. And he works for WIP, 94.1 WIP, for those that don't know. And he is just massive. He runs the show. He calls the shots. What makes him so special?
I would say it's his dedication. This is someone that has made it. This is someone that if he really wanted to, he could show up 15 minutes before the show, put in zero prep work, not even care, and the show would still be great. But that's not what Angelo does. I would always try to beat him in as the intern. And his show at the time, now it starts at 6, it would start at 5 or 5:30. So I would like try to get in at 3:45. And a lot of days he was already there before I was. So then I would say, okay, I got to get in at 3:15. And there were some days where he would even beat me in when he would get there when I would try to get there at 3:15. But what makes him great is he knows how to entertain. He knows what will create a reaction in Philadelphia. But this guy who has a journalism background and then also knows how to entertain, and he's just a natural at it, he gets in there and he doesn't let anything, like any stone does not, like he doesn't overturn any stone there in the preparation process. Every single thing that he does, he crosses every T and dots every I, as much as you could prepare in this business, because you could think you know everything that's going to go on during a show, and then right before you get on the air, the Phillies fire someone and that becomes the lead. He's just someone that he's been doing this for so long, and he still finds a way to keep on getting better and better. And I would say, I think what gets overlooked here is that he is so loyal to people that work on his team, where I'm an intern and he said to me when I left the internship, you're always part of the family. And like, you kind of roll your eyes. Yeah, always a part of the family. Yeah, right. Anytime though I email him, anytime I call him, he always gets back within 24 hours. And he's been instrumental in my career. There's been no doubt about it.
He's a special person from what I've been able to hear about him. I've only heard great things about him from people, and obviously on the radio. The proof's in the pudding. The guy's been doing it forever, and he's absolutely massive. So you talked about a local radio host that you have a ton of respect for. What about nationally? There has to be some people out there that you look up to. I've made it clear on this show before that I'm a big Coward fan. I think some of the stuff he thinks about is genius. Some of the stuff I thinks about and he says is funny to me. Not all of it's perfect, but he gets my mind going. He really, I think, in depth more than I would if I just was listening to another radio host. Is there somebody for you that you look up to, or multiple people that you look up to and try to learn from on a national scale?
Yeah, it's interesting. Colin Cowherd, I've been listening to him a lot more lately. He was an acquired taste for me. At first, I wasn't a big fan. And then through time, I've really started to enjoy his show. And you're so right. He's so intelligent. He's so entertaining as well. And he just thinks about things differently with the analogies that no one else does in the country. But if I'd have to say nationally, I do work at CBS Sports Radio. The brand that Jim Rome has built, he's a franchise. He is a legend. He is someone that does such unique radio, and he may be the most popular national radio host in the country with his following and how dedicated the clones are. That's the name of his fan base. But when I look at other national radio hosts, Dan Patrick, to me, in my opinion, is the best national radio host in the country. I just love his smooth approach, and that's a complete antithesis of me. As you could tell, I'm a loudmouth New Yorker here from the East Coast, but I like how Dan thinks everything out, is very smooth, and then also I believe that he is the best interviewer in the country, and time in and time again, you get viral things that do occur on the Dan Patrick Show, and also he has fun. You could tell, like, there's some radio hosts that, and this is not breaking news, that are jerks, that are egotistical, that are miserable to work with. You could tell that's really a family atmosphere on his show with Dan and the Danettes. I've always respected Dan Patrick. I've grown to really like Colin Cowherd, and then Jim Rome. Really what he's done has been unprecedented in this business nationally.
We'll get to Jim Rome in a second, but I want to stay with Dan Patrick. I don't know if there's a better time to watch him than around the Super Bowl. Like I just have fond memories. Like I don't have him in the car. Like I can't listen to him live. It doesn't really work out, but I have the Sirius app and I'll replay some things and I'll be able to listen to him. But when I can watch his show on the Super Bowl, hopefully we're in it this year. And I'm not watching his shows, but the guests that he has on, how organized they are, how fun it is. And the guests really want to be there. I think that's a great point you bring up, that like these guests really want to be there. What's the thought behind a studio like that? Can any radio host have a studio like that? Because that's just incredible. The food, the fun, the basketball courts, the bocce ball, whatever else they have there. They always look they're having a good time. It doesn't seem normal.
Well, if someone pays for it, you could have it, I would imagine, in this business. But bottom line, my always thoughts about interviews, I don't even like calling them interviews. I call them conversations, because if I just bring you on and I just start pestering you, all right, how about Sam Darnold? Is this going to work? Is it not going to work? You're going to kind of be, I think, turned off and not really give me much. So I try to, when I do interviews, ease in the guest, have a little fun, do things like that, and just have conversations. And when you're having conversations, then athletes will maybe let their guard down, because you always know the tough questions that you got to ask. So you got to be careful where to pick and choose your battles. But I'll tell you a quick Dan Patrick story. I didn't meet him, but I was in the same room as him, and it was for a Super Bowl. I was covering the Super Bowl. I was right in 12th grade. I was down there at Radio Row that week, and it was in the JW Marriott. And I go to the bathroom, and I'm just hear him talking to someone. I'm in the bathroom. You know that voice. It's just one of those voices that you know. And I'm in the bathroom. I go, you can't say hello to someone in the bathroom. It's awkward. Like, what are you going to do? Go shake your hand after, peeing or whatnot? So I was in 12th grade, got nervous, just washed my hands and left the bathroom. When I worked for a Fox affiliate in Jersey on my first show, Dan Patrick came on, and I told him that story. And I asked him just straight up, this is how we started the conversation. I said, would that have been weird if I started a conversation with you in the bathroom? And he was laughing. He was loving it. And he just goes, it would have been a little weird, but he goes, if you would have washed your hands first and then started talking to me, it would have been good. It's just like the witty part right on the fly of Dan Patrick like that I think really makes him unique. And also, you're right in terms of, you hear his voice and there's a big event. And, you hear Jim Nantz, big event, who's also been very instrumental in my career. You hear Bob Costas, big event. Mike Tirico, big event. Al Michaels, Doc Emmerich, Mike Breen. There's just certain voices that that they could call anything. They could have been doing play-by-play of your wedding, and their voice just makes the event bigger than anything that goes on. And that's developing a trust and developing a brand through all these years.
That's awesome stuff. You brought up a lot of big, huge names there. Jim Rome, obviously, you brought him up, and I said I want to go back to him, and we will, because, he's probably the least in my world that I've seen, but I'm now watching his show a little bit during the day over lunch, and it is such intriguing radio. The way he does things is, no one's ever been like him. Probably no one will be like him again. And what's his influence into modern radio? Because he's got all the different quirks. He's got all the different quirks. He's got all these different things he says. He's got the fire burning going, the Rome is burning stuff. He's got just a really interesting way to do things. What are some of the characteristics that he does that are really interesting to you?
I think he may be the only national radio host in the country, maybe him, and I would say Dan Patrick, that if you give them like a 5,000 seat restaurant, they could sell it out, and every single one of their fans from all over the country would fly to that restaurant in wherever. Like, you want to go to a random part of the country, like Des Moines, Iowa, Jim Rome could get 5,000 people in a restaurant ready to watch his entire show for all 3 hours. It's the relationship he's built with his fans, in my opinion, because he does this thing called the smack off every year, which is just callers basically trashing other callers. And it's the entire show, one after another. And all these callers know all the other callers. So it's one big radio community. And if it wasn't for Jim Rome, like, let's be realistic, we don't have a CBS Sports Radio network. He's the main attraction on our network now. And he's really what has made the network flourish, in my opinion, because he's one of those iconic names that has been doing it forever and still finds a way, because it's tough to do this job for 20 years. It's tough to do this job for 5 years. It's tough to do this job for 2 years, to still be on the top level of his game, on like the Mount Rushmore. I hate to do the Mount Rushmore topics, but be one of those Mount Rushmore guys still to this day. It just shows how much people still love him and how much the fans still trust him because of that different, fun style where he's not afraid to be edgy. And there's sometimes, like, I listen to the show and I listen to the callers and I go, what are these callers saying? But I'm still listening and I'm still sitting there on the edge of my seat because it is so different and it's so refreshing and it is entertaining.
Like I said, you mentioned a lot of names, a lot of big titans in the industry, and they all work for your network. One of them is Jim Nantz, the best. The guy calls everything: golf, basketball, you name it, he does it. Football, Super Bowls, he's established these great relationships. You could tell with Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and all these really big names that America really try to put their arm around. Much as people used to hate Brady, I think people hate Brady way less now than they ever have, which is great because I thought the Brady hate was just ridiculous.
It's jealousy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insane to me. Like the guy's the best to ever do it. It's not even a debate anymore. Can we end it? No hate needed. The guy's that good. Talk about Jim Nantz. You said briefly, he had a huge impact on me. What was that impact and what's your relationship with him?
So the first time I interviewed Jim Nantz, I was actually at Temple. Temple was getting ready to play Indiana. I think it was Indiana, yeah, in the NCAA tournament. And he came on and did 10 minutes with me. And at the end of the conversation, he said something to me that it's the nicest compliment I've ever got. He goes, Zach, you're more advanced at your age than I was when I was your age, which I thought was the coolest thing. I was like a fat kid in a candy store once he said that to me. And not only that, we maintained a relationship. Like anytime I text him, he comes, he'll come on. There was, earlier in the year, he came on as he was landing in the airport and he had to change flights and he had 15 minutes between like a layover and he was calling as he's going through security at the airport. He's such a nice dude. And, anytime he's in New York or he's in Philadelphia and I'm at a game, like he'll invite me into the broadcast booth before the game. It was a Patriot Eagles game. I think it was 2 years ago. And before the game, it's me, Jim Nantz, and Tony Romo. And Jim Nantz and Tony Romo have a fantasy football team together. And the two of them are like yelling at the screen because they picked up, I actually think it was Sam Darnold. Ironically enough, they picked up Sam Darnold from free agency and he had a rushing touchdown for the Jets and they were going nuts. So it was so funny to me because here are these two guys, Tony Romo, who's a stud in this business, Jim Nantz, who's a legend, iconic name. And they're doing what you and I, well, maybe you can't do it because you play in the NFL, but you get the point. What the regular people would be doing, playing fantasy football. These guys have fantasy football teams right before they're about to call a nationally televised game between the Patriots and the Eagles.
And we are allowed to have a fantasy football team, but we are not allowed allowed to gamble. Yeah. So there's plenty of guys that play fantasy for sure.
Do you pick yourself up on your fantasy team when you
I didn't play this year.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's like the ongoing joke, like over the years, I'm like, I'm not playing guys. I'm not playing, in your core group, and then I wouldn't get signed or whatever. I'm like, push the draft back. I got cut. Save me a spot. I'm coming in. I can't miss it if I'm not going to play. But once I'm in, man, I don't know. I don't have enough time for it. Go ahead.
I always drafted in fantasy, and it was a pick for the first 2 years where I would always have to drop him because he wasn't making the team. But McManus, I would take McManus every year. And now this guy is a stud kicker in the league. That was pretty neat when I was working and I was able to go to that Super Bowl and see Brandon McManus kick a few field goals because there was an argument to be made. He could have been MVP of the game up against Carolina. So that was pretty neat to see McManus, a Temple guy, just like yourself, who I met in college, then goes on to the league and have a ton of success.
Yeah, he's had a ton of success. I've had 1 year of not success, at least 1 year in the league. This guy is he's a Pro Bowl level player. And first off, and he's in a great city to kick in too, in Denver with the altitude up there. So good for him. I've met him a couple times as a local product up in the Bucks County area where I'm from. Super nice guy. And like I said, he was really cool to meet. So there's some people that you've interviewed over the years, right? Some massive names, and we'll get into them. But I want to start with some of the people that aren't the biggest names, but are your favorite interviews. Who do we got?
That's a good question. People that aren't the biggest names, but are some of the Antonio Daniels. I think Antonio Daniels is the best basketball analyst, maybe the best basketball analyst in the country. He is entertaining. He teaches you something. He has great energy. Now he is the color analyst for the Pelicans. He does Sirius XM, NBA radio. I always enjoy this time of the year talking basketball with Antonio Daniels. I do a weekly pick segment with Gus Frerotte, the former NFL quarterback. And Gus Frerotte is fun, and he's able to make fun of himself. There was one day I put on a helmet and ran through a wall to kind of mock that celebration that went wrong for him, where he headbutted the wall and then got concussed and got knocked out of the game, which is one of those embarrassing moments. So I would say those two guys, not necessarily the biggest of names, Gus Frerotte and Antonio Daniels, but anytime they're on the air, they do a kick-ass job.
That's great. And who are the bigger names that you've interviewed? Like, wow, I cannot believe I'm talking to LeBron James right now.
Yeah, I did interview LeBron in a press conference setting, which was neat. Bruce Arians, another Temple guy, day after they punched their ticket to the to the Super Bowl, winning the NFC Championship game, he did one radio interview across the country, and it was on our show, which was so neat. And I had so many producers reach out to me. How did you get Bruce Arians on? How did you get Bruce Arians on? I go, I interviewed him in college, and I would stay in contact with him. And I would, around his birthday, say happy birthday, around the holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever. And right after this, they punched their ticket to the Super Bowl, I just texted him, Bruce, congratulations, good luck in 2 weeks. And he got back to me. And then I texted him back. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't ask you to come on the show. So I would definitely say that Bruce Arians is tremendous to talk to. And anytime he comes on, it seems like he does say something that is pretty newsworthy. I did interview Adam Sandler twice in my life, and I ran it. This is a crazy story. A few weeks ago, I am at a rehearsal dinner for one of my good friends. He's getting married, and night before the wedding, you do the rehearsal dinner. We're leaving this place called Hendrix. It's either Hendrix or Henley's. I think it's Hendrix Tavern in New York. And one of my friends goes, "You're not going to believe who just walked in." I go, "Who?" He goes, "Adam Sandler." I go, "Get out of here. There's no way Adam Sandler is, it's a nice restaurant." But I'm like, why would Adam Sandler be going to this restaurant right now? He goes, "He was in basketball shorts." And I go, "Okay, that's got to be Adam Sandler because the dude's in basketball shorts everywhere." So I go in and I had a few drinks in me. I don't know if I would have done this if I was sober because the guy is eating dinner with his family, with his wife and his daughter. But I'm standing there and I go, I've met him twice. I interviewed him when I was in 11th grade and 12th grade down at the Super Bowl. I go, I'm just going to walk over and say hello. And I had the picture and he remembered the whole thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that was in Dallas. Oh yeah, this year was in Indianapolis." And we're talking for probably like 10 minutes and he's asking me what I do now. So that was pretty neat. But Sandler, even though I only interviewed him maybe 2 times for a combined 90 seconds, seriously, that was an absolute thrill. There's a bunch more. Kobe White at the draft was really cool with the wow, 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 wow moment. I broke that news to him about Cam Johnson just sitting there being at the right place, right time. So those are some of the news, some of the names, and I'm sure I would forget a lot more. Like John Kuhn, the former fullback, anytime he comes on, he's always great. So those are some of the ones that really stand out.
There's a lot of really good ones now. You know what I heard the other day, which just popped into my head when you brought up John Kuhn, Shippensburg, by the way, Shippensburg product, was Chris Cooley was on the Herd one day.
Okay.
Somebody definitely, to possibly look into have on the show. He was great. He really surprised me.
I used to have Chris on a lot.
Okay, cool.
Anytime Washington's football team would play the Eagles and I was doing radio in Philadelphia, I would always have him on. There was actually one time I had him on and they were on vacation somewhere. And he goes, "Hold on, Zach. Like, I'll be back in 30 seconds. I go, "Where's he going? This is a live radio interview." So I was just stalling. He comes back and he goes, "My kids saw a squirrel and like something was happening with them and the squirrel and they were trying to capture the squirrel." And that honestly is great radio. It's fun. I go, "Why are you talking to me?" Go, "Make sure that your kids are okay. You don't want them to get eaten alive by a squirrel." Because, us being Temple guys, we've seen some wild squirrels back in the day on Leah Course Walk.
There's some serious squirrels. I think there's a Twitter account for the Temple squirrels. It's really unique. We're going to get into Temple in a little bit, but you mentioned connections. Talked about what you did with Bruce Arians, just building your outer circle. And some people say, "Oh, he's just doing that because," no, it's genuine. You seriously, genuinely are wishing him a happy birthday. But down the line, it's just relationship building. You and I do the same thing. How important is that in your business?
It's massive. Not only when you have the show, 2 years ago, I started interviewing. We had the president of the Milwaukee Bucks on, Peter Fagan. Had him on one time. I would keep in contact with him. When the pandemic started and we were wondering when basketball's coming back, he comes on the show because I kept in contact with him. Also, he heard me blasting the NBA and, when they were going after the Bucks for maybe tampering with Bogdanovich. And I was very vocal in my support of Giannis staying in Milwaukee the night where Giannis Antetokounmpo signs a Supermax. And we were doing like a little hashtag, keep the Greek freak, sign the Supermax. And we're on a bunch of stations in Wisconsin. He did one interview the night where Giannis signed the Supermax. It was on our show right before game 1 of the NBA Finals. He's giving us an interview talking about the health of Giannis Antetokounmpo, where there's always a time in this business, right, where you create friends or you create contacts that you're closer with. and you're going to have to be in a tough spot, and you're going to have to ask them questions. But as long as you're fair, I think those people understand what they're getting into. Like with Matt Rule, I absolutely love Matt Rule. He's been so kind to me in my career. There was a time at Temple where obviously wasn't making any money doing the WHIP, which is the Student Station Coaches Show. There was a big story about a recruit that, got kicked off the team. And I had the story that the guy got kicked off the team, and I had Matt Rule on, and I had to ask him about it. And yeah, probably in Matt's mind that there was so much success around the program. I think it was during the year where you guys beat Penn State, and you had College Game Day, and all of a sudden, that's not the most positive way to start off a conversation, but I had to ask it. And when I further talked with Matt even said to me, to his credit, he goes, I understand. He goes, you got a job to do and you're fair. Now, not everyone loves fair questions, but that's just the reality of the situation. I think people can respect it at the end of the day. So it's things like that where, I try to learn from Dan Patrick, where if you are conversational with people and actually treat athletes like they're not robots and they're human beings, they'll trust you more and be more receptive to giving you actual legitimate answers. And that's what I think is so big, because you could have the biggest name on, and yeah, it's great to have a big name on, but if they don't say anything, you're just wasting your audience's time.
No doubt about that. As an athlete, I can tell you that, when we're having a conversation, and when there's, the journalism type question. I've had these talks many a times with our friend John DiCarlo there from the outskirts about his classes and
Hope John.
Yep, the man, great guy, and really, I started cutting my teeth with John doing podcasts. That's how I got into podcasting. It's pretty crazy. So,
and let me be clear about one thing, because I don't want it to come off as disingenuous. Like when I text you a few weeks ago, congratulations on your wedding, I actually care that you're getting married. It's not, I'm going to do this, so when Colin makes it big with the Carolina Panthers, I could go sandbag him with a few questions.
No, again, that's why I want to bring up connections. It's connections is a bad term. There's probably a better term, but it's not hitting in my mind right now, of course. But it's just relationship building. It's a part of the process. It's friends. I say it all the time, and people that listen to the show know my favorite part of football in general, period. I love playing. It's been great to me, but the social side of it, the people, the camaraderie, that's it for me, period. And the fact that I get to do my job, and then do another side job with this podcasting, and then also travel with friends, and then also join radio shows in the off season. I mean, Super Bowl, I had probably like 10 different interviews with different people that I stayed in touch with over the years. And I'm a small fish. I'm not coming on CBS Sports Network to talk about the Super Bowl, but I was on a lot of different shows because connections that I kept over the years, and I loved it. So that's why I have the best job in the world. I'm doing my darndest to keep it, because everything kind of coexists together. And in our world, that's the best part about it. You get to do so many different things around the game of sports, and it's incredible. It's done a ton for you and I, obviously, and I'm forever grateful for it. So I want to talk about Temple. I want to talk about our Owls. Programs hopefully trending in the right direction, but at one point it was on the top of a mountain, at least when it came to Power 6 schools, and up there too. We were ranked many a times up in the top 25 throughout my time there, and it was an unbelievable ride. I'm so thankful that I ended up going to Temple. They were my only scholarship after having about 30 at Florida 2 years before. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I did not want to go, but thank God I did. How did you end up at Temple? Why the Owls?
It was actually funny, because you talk about how many people wanted you at first. I had a lot of reps in radio. I'm not saying that a lot of people wanted me, but Qadri Ismail, who used to play in the NFL, won a Super Bowl with the Ravens and went to Syracuse, I was friendly with him, and I told him that I was going to Syracuse to do an interview at one of the admissions departments here at one of their headquarters in New York City. And he goes, you should bring a demo tape. He goes, I used to give highlight tapes of me when I was in high school. You should bring a demo tape, because my grades were not good enough to get into Syracuse. Let's be real. So I brought a demo tape, and they wouldn't take the demo tape. And I go, what? They wouldn't take it just made no sense to me. You take a demo tape for a football player, but you won't take a demo tape for a broadcaster. So that always did annoy me. And then I was talking to my guidance counselor, and I went to sleepaway camp as a kid that had a lot of Philly connections, a lot of people from the main line or the Philadelphia area that went to the Poconos in the summer. And she said, would you want to go to a school in Philadelphia? I go, yeah. And she goes, how about Temple? She goes, you could get in there. We feel pretty good that you could get in there. And also they have a tremendous broadcasting program. I simply went on the tour of the university and they sent me a thank you note, like one of those generic thank you notes, but I didn't know it was generic at the time. I was some dumb high school kid. And I thought that was pretty neat. I like Philadelphia, a big sports city. And I thought also the university was pretty neat how it was a diverse university and didn't look like every other university across the campus. So I got into like a few other schools, but once I went to Temple and also then sat down with Adam Clark and Ray Boyd, who were two student broadcasters, and they were running the radio station at the time. They said, we don't care if you're a senior, a junior, a sophomore, a freshman, the best people are going to get on the air. So I saw an opportunity where if I went to Syracuse, I would have been this button-up broadcaster. There's a lot of great broadcasters from Syracuse, don't get me wrong. We talked about a lot of them, but I think there's a lot of button-up broadcasters that go to Syracuse and have to wait till their senior year to get on. And my freshman year, I was doing a pregame show at Madison Square Garden where Temple beat Syracuse in a basketball game. Khalif Wyatt was awesome. And one of the student broadcasters, and I'm a big dude, so I looked like I could be a senior at the time. One of the student broadcasters goes, oh, like, what are your plans after college? I go, after college? I go, I'm a freshman. And he looked at me, he goes, wait, you're a freshman on the air? Because that's unheard of at Syracuse. So not to take shots at Syracuse, but that's pretty much how I ended up at Temple, because they wouldn't take my demo tape. And even if they took my demo tape and thought I was the greatest thing in the world, I could have never got into that school because my grades were not as great.
It's great. Temple, there's a lot of stories about like the misfits that end up there. Obviously, for people that know my story, I had a bunch of injuries, and it was Florida pretty much showed me the door and said, your career's over. You shouldn't play football anymore. Temple brought me in. There's stories like yourself. There's stories like Kevin Nagandi, who went to Syracuse first, I believe, and then he transferred back to Temple because it wasn't the right fit for him. So into land of the misfit toys. I mean, if we're going to transition now to some Matt Rule and some Panthers and some Temple days. I mean, Coach Rule was, he barely got the job at Temple. He had to beg for it.
Yeah.
He had to beg for the job.
He didn't get it the first time. They went with the Dazio.
Yep. And he had to beg for it. And he left. And then he was the assistant O-line coach for the Giants for a year under Coach Coughlin, and learned a ton from him, from what I understand, and that staff there. And whatever, move forward. And now here we are. He's one of the hottest names in football. So our time at Temple, with our players there's got to be some favorite players that you enjoyed watching, enjoyed following. There probably some of them have been on your radio show. And then maybe some fond memories from those days is watching Now's football.
Sure. It was so neat because I was there. The first year I was there, they had a disappointing year with Steve Addazio. Then Steve Addazio left, and not to crap talk Steve Addazio, but I don't think people in the program, maybe like the athletic directors and also like the presidents, they were annoyed because now they had to go find a new football coach. But I don't think many players were that annoyed that Steve Addazio left. I just don't believe that it was ever really a good fit. And every name I kept on hearing when I would talk to people, Matt Rule, Matt Rule, Matt Rule, Matt Rule. Everyone was thinking that Matt Rule was, they wanted him to get the job. We just didn't know if I think it was Bill Bradshaw at the time was going to hire him. And I'll never forget, Matt comes in, and the first year, that actually may be my favorite year of Temple football, and they only had 2 wins. It was so frustrating. They were in so many games. UCF, J.J. Warden, Blake Bortles, they were a great team that year. That catch exactly in the left end zone. We're calling games up against Rutgers where they ran. I didn't love the play call. It was out of the pistol, and they got stuffed. And then it was Leonte Carew scoring a touchdown. There were so many games that they were in. And towards the end of the season, I want to say that they beat Memphis. Thanksgiving, and that was the second win of the season. Like I think they lost to Idaho that year. Like there were some really bad losses, but you could see the team was taking a step in the right direction. And there was a sense that there was a different feel in the program. The next year you go 500. Kenny Harper was a stud. They don't get selected to a bowl game. Then the year after that, they're in the American Athletic Conference championship game up against Tom Herman. And then, as you know, the year after that, it's College game day. It's Penn State. First time beating them in 74 years. It was so cool seeing something built that it was Temple. The program is never going to be where it is. People would laugh when they would talk about building an on-campus stadium. But to see just the energy that Matt brought and just the look of the team, how it was different and how there was pride around the university to say, okay, I go to Temple, which is usually a basketball school, and I want to go to a football game. It was pretty neat. And look how many guys now are in the league. Yourself, Dion, Hassan, Robbie, Tyler. I don't want to, Tavon Young. You could go on and on and on. Matt Ioannidis. There's so many guys. PJ Walker. Yep, of course. Keith Kirkwood. There's so many guys that have got to the league, and they were at Temple, and I'd be watching these guys, and I'm like, this is a really damn good football team, and these guys can play on Sundays. And it was so neat to see Hassan go in the first round, Dion go in the second round. So it's just been something that it's crazy how that 3 to 4 year period with Matt now being the head coach of the Panthers, how many guys from that staff now you're getting to play with in the NFL. It's wild to see what that program turned into.
Yeah, it is. And it's funny too, actually that year, 2016, we led all of college football in being, the misfits. We had the most players go unsigned, undrafted. That goes to show you just, Keith Kirkwood, myself, Sharif Finch, Julian Taylor, I believe was a year after. He made
Kyle Friend,
late round pick. Kyle Friend was a year before us.
Okay.
But there was a lot of us. There's, of course I'm forgetting a couple. Then a year later, you had Chris Myrick. I mean, Chris.
Yeah, right.
I mean, Chris
when he got the scholarship, I know he's your guy, but when he
Yeah.
got the scholarship, that was so neat how everyone was surprised. That was such a cool kind of feel, but that's Temple. It's not the 5-star recruits necessarily, the 4-star recruits. It's guys that, get some salt that go into their wounds. And do you just sit there and lie on the ground, or do you pick yourself back up and go tell people, okay, you don't think I could do this? Well, F you, I'm going to be able to do it. That's what Temple University is all about, really.
Yeah, 100% agree. And it's funny. So, and we'll move on to the Panthers here and we'll wrap things up. So I moved into my dorm and we were just, talking to my roommates, talking about the team last year. And I kind of knew some of the guys from high school and that being in the Philadelphia area. So it was a smooth transition in that regard. I knew a lot of guys on the team, or at least a handful, which is a lot. When you transfer in, you used to know everybody. So, they're like, yeah, we won 2 games last year. I'm like, what? I literally am like, wow, I guess I didn't prepare that hard, but their Temple was my only offer. So I didn't even do that much homework. I'm like, here, I guess I'm going, here we go. We'll figure out how it goes. Coach rules like, we'll give you all the time you need to heal, take the time you need, and then come back when you're ready to roar. Okay. So that's why I ended up picking it. And they're like, yeah, we won 2 games last year. I was like, and I just got through training camp. I'm like, this team right here won 2 games. I couldn't believe the talent there. And then we ended up winning 6, like you said, 6-6. BDCU, who was ranked that year. That was an awesome game in the rain at home. And then the 2015 year, we lost to Greg Ward, Eagles receiver now. And Houston, that was the Penn State Notre Dame year as well. And then obviously the next year we went on a championship run. And, something that people don't talk about a lot is we lost Matakevich, we lost Matt Ioannidis, we lost Tavon Young, we lost Kyle Friend, and then we lost Robbie Anderson. And then that's a serious group. And there's probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 more that I'm forgetting that we lost starters. And we ended up going and winning the conference championship the next year.
And not only that, because you're right, that it was that 2015 season with the whole Penn State and Notre Dame. And I remember the Boca Bowl in that monsoon with the whole onside kick, which that should have been our football. But that next year, it was Army. I think it was the first game of the season. There's so much energy. Everyone's like, oh, here comes Temple football. It's coming. This is going to be the team. It's going to represent the city well. Triple option, boom, destroyed. And I go, wow, that it felt like a lot of momentum shifted away from that program. But to your guys' credit, not only did you find a way to get back to the conference championship game, that once you guys got to the conference championship game, you definitely knew that they were going to win it, but it was the way you guys won it. You got up against a triple option, Kenny Amatololo's Navy's team. And right away, I think Philip hit, it was Keith Kirkwood, maybe down, or I forget who the receiver was. I think it was Keith Kirkwood. It was for a bomb. Who was it?
So the first play of, I think, the bowl game, he hit Kirkwood for a deep touch. Actually, he hit Kirkwood for a post in that game. He threw a crossing route to Ventel for a touchdown. That's another guy. Mm-hmm. He's another guy in the NFL who's on the Panthers. Ventel. So that was crazy. The flyover at Navy. So we beat Army. We lost to Army. I really rolled up at Sharga on the last play of the first half, kind of just the play to let the clock run out. We ran a draw and Sharga blew up my ankle. I blocked the guy in the was out. So I missed my only game in college like that I was like consistently playing, at least
Sure.
Stony Brook. Then we went to Penn State, lost, beat Charlotte in a hurricane, beat SMU, lost to Memphis. And that's when it all started. We beat UCF with no time left. And then we went on a run. We won the rest of the games that year and, got into the championship game and won it at Navy, which was incredible. We had
that UCF game was something, by the way.
Yeah, my God, yes. And we ran the ball to come back into the game, which was my favorite part about it. I'd never been any part of anything like that. I thought I wasn't going to play at all in the second half. And Rule's like, we're going to do what we do best. We're going to run the ball. And we just fed Jihad. We just fed Rockwell. And we just blocked our asses off for the rest of the game.
Dude, Jihad, man, that actually could be one of my favorite players that I don't think gets enough credit. That run that he had up against Penn State where he juked their entire sideline, it's still to this day, it's one of my favorite plays in the history of the program.
Yep, there's a lot of big ones. So I'm going to put my Zach Gelb hat on now and give you the tough questions about the Carolina Panthers. I'm going to switch it up here. So you asked me what my thoughts on Sam Darnold. What are your thoughts on Sam Darnold?
So Sam, he's got to prove it this year because right now, I think it's a fair debate. Was it the Jets or was it Sam? Personally, living in New York, I think it was more of the Jets than it was Sam. The offensive line was horrendous. Also, Adam Gase, I don't want to put you in a tough spot, but he was an incompetent coach. And Sam Darnold, did he make mistakes? Yes, he made a mistake, no doubt about it. But I was a big believer in him. He was my favorite quarterback in that draft class where all those picks were going, the 5 first-round draft picks. I'm very intrigued because your offense, I got to see what the defense is. I think the defense showed some improvement last year as the season did get on. It was a very young defense, and Phil's defensive scheme is very complex to learn. So I think there'll be a big jump there in year number 2. But that offense, what you guys were able to do last year without Christian McCaffrey and just how many games you were in, I've seen this script before at Temple, at Baylor, where the first year, I know you don't think of it this way, but I do. It was like a wash year, and that team was going to be competitive, and there was going to be a lot of ugly losses. So I love DJ Moore. I love Robbie. I love Christian McCaffrey. I just got to see if Sam can be the guy. So that's what I think of Sam. Am I going to say he's going to be great? No. Am I going to say he's going to be horrible? No. I want to see if he can be the guy this year, and time will tell.
Okay, thank you for your input on that. And then what are the Panthers going to do this year? You're a guy who's tapped into the NFL. What's your thoughts on the Panthers in Coach Rule's second year?
We had them the other day. We were talking about dark horse playoff teams. So I don't know. Maybe you want to put this in the locker room. He called it a dark horse playoff team. No, we should be a playoff team. You could be doing something like that. And then I could be in a hype up video trashing the Carolina Panthers when I was actually saying something positive. The Buccaneers are going to win that division. I know that you still have to play the games and you may not want to hear that, but Tampa Bay is going to win the division. I think the Saints are going to be good this year with Jameis Winston. I view you guys right now as the 3rd best team in that division, but a team that is going to be seriously competing for one of those wild card spots. I said this about Matt, and we're on in Charlotte and WFNZ, and I do a lot of interviews on that station. They have me on a bunch. I laid out a 3-year plan for Matt Rule. And that's because that's what I've seen. The first year, it's a wash. Second year, we're going to see some improvement. And then year number 3, that's where the expectations are really going to pick up. But you look at some of the names you guys have. Burns is tremendous. I like Jeremy Chin a lot. You're bringing Hassan, which is also cool. This could be a team that surprises some people. But I want to see you guys finish in the 4th quarter because that was a problem last year in the 4th quarter. You're in a lot of games. Got to finish them now and not rely on 65-yard field goals to try to win games.
All right, there you have it. No comments out of me. I'm doing the.
Why don't see you want this podcast to go viral? Hold on, you want this podcast to go viral right now? Just guarantee that you guys are going to win the Super Bowl right now. It will be across every show in America tomorrow. Colin Thompson of the Carolina Panthers guarantees a Super Bowl victory. Just do it. Why not?
You know what? Because I was brought up in the Temple journalism and of media and journalism school. I have unbelievable media people at the Panthers. I've learned from a lot of great media people over the years, and I'm doing the hosting, Zach. That's the difference. You're actually you're the player right now. So I got to ask you the questions. I don't need to give my opinion. I will when the season's over. Everyone knows what I think of our team, and I really do truly think very highly of Sam Darnold. I've been very impressed with him in OTAs. Great guy. Really excited to get to know him more and go on a journey with him and the rest of our team this year. Really excited to see 22 healthy. That always stirs the drink pretty good. So, Zach Gelb, can't thank you enough for coming on, man. We really appreciate your time. Good luck with the show tonight, and really appreciate your support of me over the years. I always enjoy watching you and supporting you. So, thanks, man.
Back at you, Colin. Respect mutual. Thanks so much.